Hey everyone, Vortex TCG here, and today I'm going to be discussing my top 16 results at the Walsall Ultimate Cup just the previous day. I'm going to be talking to you about my matchups, the deck that I played, and things that I would change going forward in my deck. I was playing DarkKnightmon. As you might know, I kind of have a bit of a history with DarkKnightmon. I got top 4 in Leeds' 2nd anniversary, Living Realms, and I've also just got 9th in the recent Ultimate Cup. So let's get straight into the video. I'm going to be discussing the deck first because I think we need to discuss the deck first before we get into the matchups. So if you're looking forward to this video, please like and subscribe. It means a lot to me. And let's get straight into the deck profile. Okay, and let's get into the deck profile. Going to start off with the eggs. We have 4 Pagumon. Still the best black egg that you can play. The search is very important, and you need the search, so we end up playing 4 of this. Then we get onto the rookies, and the rookie lineup is very different to the deck profile that I did previously. We play 4 Monitormon. This is a must. The reason why we play 4 of this is because it is probably one of the best searches at level 3. Allows you to reveal the top 4 cards, add 2 cards that are either Knight, Deadly Axe, or something that has Twilight. So this essentially searches the whole deck. It searches out the option, it searches out the tamer, it searches out everything in the deck. So you have to play 4 of this. It's easily the best Monitormon in the archetype that you can play. So you play 4 of it. Then we get onto the tech card of choice for this event, the 4 Chikurimon. There might be some reason asking, like, why play 4 Chikurimon? The reason being is because I know one of the worst matchups that you can face in this deck is Bloom and also Blue Flare. And what this card essentially does is that it removes the security attack additions, it removes the top card of their stack essentially, which essentially loses them all their power. And also it's really good. It's just really good. Like it's hard to explain, but it deals with so much in the meta currently that you have to play 4. I think if I didn't play 4, I probably wouldn't have got 9th place, quite frankly, because this being in security really helped in certain situations, especially in stuff like Beals and the Blue Flare matchups that I had throughout the day. Then for the final rookie, we have 3 Chumon. This is probably the most important card that you could play in this current format, because there are so many effects that allow you to gain memory without tamer effects. Bills being the main one, you play this card, they can't really deal with it unless they use like a Death Slinger or mill like a blast mode essentially. So it is, it can be destroyed throughout that deck, but they do not gain memory. So very important that you play this. Also, just in like other decks like Bloom, it's very important. Blue Flare also gains quite a bit of memory through Z grade. So yeah, you play 3 of this to try and slow your opponent down, because that's the main goal of this deck. You're slowing your opponent down to the point where they don't have any resources. Speaking of resources, let's get onto the champions. And the first one is 4 Deadly Axemon. In my previous top 4, I played 2 of this. In my recent deck profile, I played 4 of this. I like it at 4, and the reason why I like it at 4 now is because the DP actually matters, and also you're able to get the search off a lot more easier than previous. Sometimes it's actually fine to start your game off by playing Deadly Axemon, give them 4, because you're essentially getting so many resources to prepare for your 3rd, 4th, 5th turn, that playing this on your opening turn is actually quite valuable. So you play 4 of it. Then you also play 4 Cavalier mode. This one is unironically probably one of the better pieces. With the Mighty Axe and the Cavalier, they both count as Skull Knight and Deadly Axe, so keep that in mind. This gives it jamming and blocker, so in certain situations when you go Dark Knight from BT10, you return this to your hand, play the Skull Knight from the source on the play, and then on the following turn you can go into Cavalier, swing for 2 checks, and that could be and then go into another Dark Knight if you need to. So and it's also really good defensively because it has blocker as well. So this card is criminally underrated, I think, within the deck. I think it does so much. The aggression part of it is really good as well. So we play 4 of it currently in the deck. Then we play probably one of the unsung heroes of this deck, quite frankly. It's the Mighty Axe mode. Again, counts itself as Skull Knight and Deadly Axe, but also you're able to search top 3. You can add a Knightmon and a Nene or a Deadly Axe. So you're looking for the Tamer most of the time, but also if you play this from a Dark Knight when it's being deleted, you're able to essentially digicross because you're playing it, so you're able to apply some interruption on your opponent's turn. Sometimes you can do that and it's very impactful in those points because it obviously can save you from losing, but most of the time you just play this out from those deletion effects. So we play 4 of it, and then to finish off the level 4s we play 4 Skull Knights. The Skull Knight is very, very important because it is essentially your aggression part. But one of the things that you need to keep in mind of is the fact that it also has this effect that allows you to go into a Dark Knight for free. Very important, because if you go into the BT7 Dark Knight for free, you just gain so much advantage. You don't go into the BT10 one using this effect because you're losing its value, quite frankly. And that is the level 4 line. Then we get onto the level 5s, and of course we are playing 4 BT10 DarkKnightmon. Yeah, I mean, this card does everything. You can digicross this for 2, making it a 4 cost. On play, you get to de-digivolve 1, and then all turn, and then if you digicross with 2, you get to delete a 5 cost or less. So the main thing is that you digivolve like a level 5, delete the level 4, and then you gain massive advantage because this also gains blocker with the Tamer. This sort of interruption is very important because a lot of high-level Digimon have like on-deletion effects, so you can bypass that with the de-digivolve and then delete what's underneath, essentially stopping them from making another stack on top of that. So a very powerful card. You play 4 of it, it's the best card probably in the deck. And then we also play 2 BT7 DarkKnightmon. On play, you get to play a Skull Knight and a Dark Knight, a Deadly Axe from on trash or from hand, under this in any order, and then when you this gets deleted, you can play a Dark Knight and a Deadly Axe from underneath, suspended. So this essentially means that if for some reason there's a Deadly Axe, like the Search Deadly Axe and the Mighty Axe mode underneath, you get double searches, and also you can interrupt your opponent's turn with the Mighty Axe mode if you decide to digicross. So yeah, we played 2 of it. 3's a bit clunky. I've been lowering this down more and more as time has gone on, but I think 2 at the moment is very good. There was points where I was definitely feeling like I'm missing a 3rd, but I think 2 is perfectly fine. And that is the level 5s. Let's get into the level 6s, and no shock to anyone, it's just 4 Dark Knight X Antibody. This card does everything. You get to return a guy from your trash to your hand, delete a Tamer, then unsuspend this guy, and if it gets deleted, you get to play a Dark Knight from your trash without paying memory cost. Yeah, this card does everything. I had some questions why I'm playing 4 of this, because sometimes you don't want to pick this up, especially through the early game, and so if you draw this normally, that's perfectly fine. But if you're able to get this from searches later on throughout the game, where this effect becomes more and more problematic for your opponent, that's where it becomes more powerful and more useful. I wouldn't lower it because you need to find this card. I've tried it with 2, I've tried it with 3, but every time that I've needed this card, I don't have it, essentially. So I play 4 of it just to make sure that I do have it in my hand for when those situations do rise up. Let's get into the options now. And so we play 1 Immortal Ruler. I lowered this down, and the reason being is because I don't think many games I've gone, oh yeah, I need the 7th or 8th Dark Knight to finish off this game. This essentially acts as the 5th Dark Knight BT10, but from trash. So you're essentially with this card in your hand, you're essentially having a Dark Knight in your hand, but from trash instead. Essentially, you get to mill top 3. And then you get to play a Dark Knight, and then if it's a Dark Knight with Digicross requirements, you can then pay the Digicross requirements through trash instead, which is very important because a lot of the time they're going to be in the trash. So early on, this card is not very useful, obviously, but in the grind game, it is very important. You only play 1 though, I feel, at this point. Pride Memory Boost at 3. Again, I have said that this card needs to be at 4, but the amount of times that I'm missing with this card recently is unbelievable. So what I decided to do is just lower it and just prioritize other cards like more level 3s and more stuff as well, just in general, with like the level 4 counts. So yeah, this card is obviously still very good if you're able to get like a Deadly Axe or a Mighty Axe mode off this card. Obviously the advantage is very crazy. However, yeah, it's inconsistent sometimes. I know we play like a high amount of 3s and 4s that you can play with this card, but when it doesn't hit, you're essentially losing because the memory that you gain from its delay effect does not matter at this point. So we play 3 of it, and then as the hard removal we play 3 Iron Fisted Onslaught. It's probably the best option that you can have as of right now. I was playing around with Ultimate Flare because obviously there's things, there's smaller things in the format, mainly with Bloom Hydra because they play out a lot of free cost guys, I believe. So I was messing with that, but I go with this because it actually is kind of impressive in certain situations because there's a lot of like same play cost values, especially when your opponent builds like a massive stack. So you're able to delete way more than just the one body. Obviously hitting this in security, very good. So yeah, I would play, I don't think I'll play 4, I don't think I'll play 2, I think 3 is perfectly fine. And that is the options. Let's then get onto the tamers, and we'll start off with 4 Nene. Yeah, this tamer does everything. It's the main defensive tool that you have essentially in your deck. Reveal top 4, gets add a Knightmon or Deadly Axemon or a Guy of Twilight, and then place the rest at the bottom. On your opponent's turn, everything that has Dark Knight or Twilight gains blocker, and then if this gets deleted in some way, gain 2 memory. Yeah, you need to find this card very early on so you can apply pressure through the block, and then also gain advantage when you do block. So yeah, we play 4 of this. I know certain lists are playing 3, but I think that's just ludicrous, quite frankly. You need to find the piece, and you need to find it very, very quickly. And the final card is Izzy Azumi. I think I should have played 3 of this because there's definitely times where throughout the whole the tournament that I've been set to 1 or 2 and I can't really do anything. So maybe adding another one of these is something that you should do. But I played 2 in this event. It does help, obviously, helps you sort out your top 3, which is very important. And also, this is just a free cost tamer in this deck. Nothing else is obviously a different color because we're playing Ultimate Cup rules. So yeah, we played 2 of this in this version, but I would definitely look at upping this to 3, especially as you keep on getting locked to 1 memory. So now let's get into the discussion about my matchups throughout the day. And my first game was against Yellow Hybrid. Yellow Hybrid, I feel, isn't a very strong deck anymore, especially as it's been hit with Sunrise Buster, and I believe the X Antibody was hit as well. I can't remember fully, but it's pretty bad at the moment, I feel. I don't think it has a lot of things to stand on other than you gain loads of memory on your opponent's turn. But either way, game 1 goes back and forth a little bit. I was able to delete pretty much all the problematic tamers. They were able to set to 3 constantly, but they weren't able to fully get rid of my board. And when they did, I obviously went into a DarkKnightmon, which protected me for game 1. Game 2, I was just like, I mean, I know how your deck plays, and if I just control your board as is, you're not able to get any advantage until I swing. So I ended up making a board of like 3 DarkKnightmons and just waiting to attack essentially, because I don't want to trigger if anything. So just doing that pretty much for the whole game. My opponent didn't have an answer, and it was an easy game 1. Game 2, on the other hand, was a bit of an interesting one. My second round matchup was against Machine Dramon / Chaos Dramon, and the deck, the person I was playing against was very kind, but he had some really bad luck in game 1. He ended up having 3 Chaos Dramons in security, which meant that he wasn't able to interact with my board that much, which ended up giving me game 1. In game 2, he was still having trouble finding his pieces. He was hard playing level 4s and level 5s. However, if you know DarkKnightmon, it's really hard to get rid of things that your opponent hard plays. It's something that people don't understand about this deck. It's that if you hard play level 5, chances are it's going to stick on the field and you can't really do anything about it, because Dark Knight doesn't play that much hard removal, and it expects you to build a somewhat small stack essentially, so we can de-digivolve you to a level 4 and then delete your guy essentially. But did very well, only hard play level 5s, was able to get me to 1 security I believe, but he wasn't able to find Analog Man, and I was able to take a lot of advantage in the following turn after he gave me I believe 10 memory, because he had to hard play a Machine Dramon to gain blocker for the turn. So round 2 was again a bit difficult at times, but something that Dark Knight can do beat very well. Round 3 was against the mirror match in DarkKnightmon, and this was definitely something that I wasn't expecting. I didn't, when I went into the event, I didn't think Dark Knight would be very good. Obviously, I'm very confident in my own Dark Knight because I know how Dark Knight plays. I've been playing it since BT7. It is essentially my deck, but my opponent was very aggressive early on, which made me feel like I was going to lose game 1. However, my opponent blew through a lot of resources very quickly. We ended up getting to a point where we were going Dark Knight and then they'll go Dark Knight, and I ended up being 1 Dark Knight up, which meant that I was able to win the game through deck out, I believe. I think it was through deck out, so we take those. In game 2, I started off pretty well, and my opponent had a bit of a rocky start. However, they were able to answer my board and ended up winning game 2. And then game 3, game 1 took so long that going into game 3 was essentially impossible. So we ended up just saying it was a draw, and so we moved on throughout the tournament. Don't play the Dark Knight Mirror. It is so annoying. I've experienced it before, but oh my god, it is even worse, especially at stuff like Ultimate Cups, because it just... When you play Dark Knight, it's like a few people are only going to be playing Dark Knight, and so you want other Dark Knight people to do well, and so when you play against them, you don't want anything bad. Like, the draw was okay, so we'll move on to round 4. Round 4 was quite interesting. It was a deck that I wasn't expecting to do so well, but he was at 3 wins and 1 draw. Also, it was Armor Rush, and what I thought about the event, I didn't think I would see Armor Rush at all. Now, obviously, a lot of the cards are blue based. They just have either green, red, yellow in them. However, I thought going into the event that Magna X would be pretty much hard to go into. So I was thinking that this is going to be an easy win essentially, because my deck essentially destroys this deck. Because he goes into level 4s that can't be deleted and goes into another form, but I digivolve them and then delete them. So game 1 was exactly that. He went into Magna X, and then essentially I digivolved it, and then he was like, well, can't really do much, went to game 2. Game 2 was a very similar thing. He was playing out rookies a lot, finding pieces that he needed, like the tamers. I was able to delete all the tamers. Well, actually, I deleted the dual tamer and Ken and Davis and Ken, which stopped him from being more aggressive. And he ended up on his turn like with 7 memory because of all the boosts that he was playing, but it ended up not meaning anything in the slightest in the end. So I ended up winning game 5. So round 5 was against Blue Flare, and this was the one that I was very worried about coming into this event, because I don't really have a good matchup against Blue Flare, because what Blue Flare does essentially is that it stuns your guys, and most of the time you only have like 2 sources underneath, so they're able to stun your guys and pretty much go in. However, I will say that I was quite lucky in this game, because my opponent didn't find all the pieces he needed. Now, he did find certain pieces like the Z Greymon to stop me from continuing my aggression, but it ended up just being enough to digivolve him multiple times to then swing for game 1. Game 2 was a similar thing. He would go into the Metal Grey Cyber Launcher, I believe it is. I don't think I saw a single Digimon or anything like that throughout the game, and I think he was having trouble finding his pieces. I was talking to him, great guy, but it seems like he was not very familiar with the deck, but he was doing very well in the tournament. So I knew what I needed to do against Blue Flare, so I executed my plan. I was able to get certain cards that would really help me in this matchup, which I discussed in the deck profile. So it really helped me out here and allowed me to win game 5. Round 6 was against a deck that I was expecting to win against, because my deck kind of counters this deck in some ways, and that is Beelsmon. My testing against Beelsmon has been very good. I've only lost like a couple of matches, but my opponent went off. My opponent found all the pieces he needed. He found blast modes, he found wizards, he found death slingers, the EX2 bills. He found so many cards that allowed him to push for game. However, he pushed too much, and so in game 1 he ended up losing due to not having any other cards in his deck, essentially. So wasn't great. Game 2 he slaughtered me, quite frankly. Again, same sort of power level, milling so many cards, getting so much advantage, and my turn is essentially Dark Knight, kill a guy, hope that you don't have anything. He had stuff, and went to game 3. And in game 3, it was not great, but unfortunately time was called and ended up giving us both a draw, which really sucked, because it's kind of just said that we'll not be able to get top 8 at this point, unless something really problematic goes on in the current top 8 at that point. So wasn't very happy about that result, but is what it is. And we go into the final round. And so in the final round, it was against Blue Flare. What a way to end off the tournament, quite frankly. Game 1, I didn't have any pieces whatsoever, and every time I had a piece, he was able to stun with the Metal Grey, going to Decker, essentially controlled the board very, very quickly, able to get a lot of swings going on as well with the Z Grey as well. So not a great showing for Dark Knight, so I lose game 1. Game 2 I was going to lose as well. However, my opponent made a big misplay because I believe he swung with something and then he wasn't able to get the materials for something and then wasn't able to go for game. So unfortunately he lost game 2, and in game 3 I was able to control his board because he didn't find any of the pieces he needed. He ended up getting a bunch of rookies, so the Gals. He was also playing Gabu draw 1. He was also playing the jamming Vmon as well. So he was very aggressive, but ended up not being a lot he could do because all my guys are blockers. He couldn't stun anything, and so I won game 3. My final result being 5 wins, 0 losses, and 2 draws. Anyways, that has been my 9th placed DarkKnightmon deck profile and discussion about the event. Overall, I'm very proud of what the deck was able to do this event. I feel like I should have been higher, if I'm being honest. I feel like I could have definitely pushed this deck a lot more in testing, and also push it to counter a lot more things. That's one of the great things about DarkKnightmon. It does have the ability to play a lot of counter cards that deal with a lot of the meta. But what do you guys think? What do you think of the deck profile? What do you think about the event discussion itself? Let me know in the comment section down below. And thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.